Hey guys, Danny Danzy here. I just wanted to go over a few things. Quite a few of you were asking me for more videos, and I don't know. I guess I'm kind of just filling up some space here to help you out. But speaking of filling up some space, that's what this video is going to be about. We're all in search of this sound size, enhancement, enlargement, whatever you want to call it. And there are quite a few ways to do it. We've talked about the Haas effect. We've talked about using the enhancement block. And I now wanted to show you a few little things that are, along the same lines as that, but you can still get some really cool results. All right. In this particular preset, and no, you're not allowed to have my crappy preset, so don't ask me for it. It is crappy. It actually is, but I really like it because it records well. I've actually shaved a lot of low end off of it compared to sounds I've used in the past, and it's really easy to manipulate into a mix. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. In our cab block, all right, we have this room parameter, which I think is really cool. You can actually get away with not using a reverb. And one of the cool things, one of the things that I felt is always lacking in direct recording is, the actual room capture, as well as the air frequency between the microphone and the speaker cabinet itself. And Cliff has, of course, covered all that. All right, now, in my particular use, I'm not really crazy about how this part reacts with what I'm doing. All right. However, if you were to go about it, this default setting is actually pretty cool, and you just bring some of the air in, leaving that at 5K, or 5,000 hertz, whatever you call it. It works pretty well. It's just not a sound that I like. All right. But what I like to do in my direct recording procedure is to actually kind of create a room that doesn't sound like a reverb. Like you guys have seen my videos in the past where I've showed you some of the small room reverb stuff that I use just to give that, sound a little texture. All right, we're going to do that here using the cab block, okay, which I think is really awesome, and it literally gives me more of a sound size enlargement than the reverb does. And you don't have the long tail to deal with. It doesn't sound like you're in a tunnel or in a bathroom. This is a really cool sound, and I'll show you one of my favorite little presets that I use. But before then, let me just show you what this dry, sound sounds like. Hear how it's completely dead? Totally dead, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some room. I'm going to mess with the size, and we're going to mess with the mic spacing. And you're going to watch how this thing kind of comes to life. All right, so a good starting point is around 80 for me. All right, but let's go 90. Let's go extreme. I think it's a little too much. And I got a really good sound at 7.75 here. I don't know how I came up with that number, but I was just playing around. And you can literally hear things changing if you let a chord ring out and you can dial it in. It'll kind of give you, a reflective room type sound. All right. And for here, I think I put this at 20. All right. So now with these settings, listen to when I just strike a chord and stop. See, there's a bit of a room in there. Here's without it. See, we're totally dead. All right, what I want you to listen for is when the room's not there, the guitar sounds like it's coming out of the center of your screen. When we add the room in there, you can actually hear artifacts of it coming out of the left and right, which gives it a bit of an imaged enlargement. Hear it? All right, that little bit of room just really makes a difference. Here it's completely dead. Let's go 100. Hear that room, that little bit of reflection? That stops you from being so dry. Now, for most recordings, that might be a little too much. Even 90 for me is too much. I kind of like the 80. It just gives it a little something that without it, you notice that it's gone. Hear that little reflection? And here's without it. So you can use something like this just to add a little bit of that I guess if you want to call it room ambience or a little bit of reflection. And I think it really sounds great. I actually use it to record now, and I'm not using the reverb because the reverb, though it sounds really good, and I have a really nice small, guitar sound setting on that, it's not quite the same as what adding this room does. You get a little bit of, I don't know, a little something extra to me that just really sounds cool. And then, of course, if you add the air in here, you get other stuff. But you guys can mess with that. I just wanted to show you how you can just let the sound that you have right now grow a little bit. All right. So let's move on to something else now. I want to show you, how we can like manipulate the pitch block and kind of get like a bigger sound out of it. Okay, so I have one of my newer Van Halen sounds up that I'm probably going to release to you guys at some point. I want to wait for Cliff to get the latest build out and stuff, because I actually had such a struggle between some of my amps that got changed. So as you can see, I'm still on the Beta 7.1. I used the Beta 2 on my test Axe effects to report back for beta stuff. But for me, I'm in the middle of recording an album. The 7 has been awesome for me. But anyway, this is one of the newer Van Halen sounds. And what I wanted to show you is how I'm using the pitch blocks in this one. All right. Actually, this first one here, you don't have to worry about. But what I included that for is for you guys that don't want to down tune for your, most Van Halen is a half step down. I've now included a pitch block that brings you a half step down. If you like to tune 440 or, wherever you want to tune, we can just have that block and adjust it, So it really made a cool difference. And I have a few other enhancements, but we'll talk about that at another time when the patch is ready to be, released. I'm not quite done with it. But I want to go into this right here and just show you how I have this pitch block set up. Now, I started this on a preset from that guy, Progressive Rocco. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Killer player. Comes up with some awesome tones. And I borrowed some of this, I love the pitch block that he used, and it was like 5150 Van Halen, one of the tones on that he shared, and I really loved it. So I don't know if he's watching or not, but if he is, or you guys watching, I give credit to this pitch block to him, just about in full, other than some of the enhancements that I've done. I do not believe he used any delay times, but I grabbed this Octave 7 that he was doing. But let me explain how we can get stuff to work with this, all right? And you can actually do some Haas effect and stuff using the pitch block, in case you didn't know, all right? And it's going to basically come from the delay. Now, your voice detune actually adds the chorus effect, all right? So if I, play something, you're going to get kind of like, this is like the newer Van Halen sound. You get the idea. Kind of has that kind of sound and feel to it. We can reduce gain. I don't want you to listen to the sound. What I wanted you to hear was the pitch block. All right, now that's a little busy sounding for Van Halen. All right, and the reason for that is because of how I have these delay times set. Okay, and I'm going to explain all that to you. So let's first, mess around with the pitch. I'm going to turn the reverb off as well. I just want you to hear this for what it is, okay? All right, and let's turn this level off, okay? So right now, we're dealing with a pitch of, what is going to detune and turn our pitch block into kind of almost like a chorus block. Hear how it changes? All right, the object of that, in my opinion, is to kind of let it waver a little bit. All right, if you want it to have a chorus type effect. I kind of like it right there for right now. Okay? So now let's turn this one off, because that's going to be one of our pitches. Now let's listen to this one, and we want to bring it lower. You can set it the same number low as you did high if you want, or I just set it by ear now to where it sounded like the waver was good. It wasn't, extremely off, but it had enough of a waver. So now I kind of got like a chorus effect. Okay, which is kind of cool. Now we can actually mess with these delay times and bring something to where it comes out to the left and right, which enlarges the sound even more. But let's say we'll remember these numbers 5, 8, and 6, 9. Let's just set these to flat right now, and I'm going to show you something cool. Okay, we can do the Haas effect with just these right here. Okay, but remember, the voice detune is what gives you the chorus effect. These here are going to delay your signal. So check this out. Let's say let's do a 20 on one and a 40 on the other. So now you get this. All right, you can hear a little on the left and right. Now, if we crack the mix all the way up, sorry, forgot to raise level 1. We have a Haas effect right now, but here's the one thing to consider. Because we are 100% wet right now, our delay one time is actually hitting 20 milliseconds late. Okay, so what you can do now is, let's bring a little center in. You notice you can hear left and right. Okay, so if I just hit a chord and bring the mix from 100 to say like maybe 55 or so, you'll notice we start to have a center. So now we have a middle, which is hitting instantaneously. We have a left side that's hitting at 20 milliseconds, and the right side is hitting at 40. All right, which is pretty cool sounding. Now you can adjust how much of that center you want, which is your natural dry guitar sound. So I'll show you what happens when we take more of that out and add more in. I kind of like it around 50, 55. All right, now you can make it swirl a little bit using those settings we had before. Now you pick up a little bit of chorus, okay, along with your delays. And if it's too much, you just bring it down. Now what's going to happen when we bring this down is we'll probably have to drop the level a little bit because it'll start to get too loud. And a good way to test for that is to turn your pitch block off and on. The less you use, the more it's going to be, the more clear it will be. The more effect you use, the more it kind of, can jumble you up, especially if you're not a super clean player. Now, I just was bypassing my pitch block, and you notice it wasn't a huge difference in how loud it was, right? My meters on my console aren't even moving, so that's pretty good. I got that pretty dialed in. But you may want more. You may want to bring that to 50. We're still pretty close. But I mean, that's some of the things you can do with the pitch block, and you don't have to use the voice detune if you just want to use, the Haas effect that we know using a delay. You just want to make sure that, of course, you have enough of your dry guitar in there, because the Haas effect comes alive when we're wide open on the mix knob. But there's like a latency now that's pretty huge. And it doesn't sound very good like that. And I think it's probably because of the chorus that we add in there. So if we take that out, it'll probably clear up a little bit. But there's still a little delay in there. So you see, if you add a little bit, now you have a center. Now it sounds a lot better. All right. So that's the gist of using that. Let me go back to here again and set these up. Another thing that I want you to be concerned about is your high cut and low cut. Now, with choruses, in my opinion, unless you're going for something warm, I normally don't mess with the high frequencies, but the low frequencies you want to be careful with, for the simple fact that when too much low frequency on a chorus or a flanger, comes into play, it can make your guitar get all bassy and you wonder why you can't hear yourself in the mix. Or, even when you're playing live, you'll have this swirl coming in of the chorus effect due to the voice detune that actually can sound a little bassy. All right, so I'm going to play a chord and I'll show you what happens when we mess with the low cut. And you'll hear how it literally removes the low end that's in the chorus. Now it's up to you to decide how much low end needs to be removed. I kind of like that it's removing 156 on down for me because I don't want that. Now some of you guys, when I swept down to the lower numbers, you're probably thinking, oh my God, that sounds great. Why did you touch it? Your all alone sound is allowed to have a little more low end in it, okay? Because there's nothing competing. When you start putting that in with a bunch of different instruments, either in a live situation or when you're recording, those low end frequencies that you love are going to clash with other instruments. It could be a kick drum, especially bass guitar. You don't want to have that, the big, thick, nice low end that you guys like on your guitars. That's usually the first thing that gets dialed out, Or I notice some of the cab packs that I buy, sometimes they, have a little bit too much low end in them. But that's because the creator wanted it to be as true as possible when they shot the IR. But for me, that low end has to go. So that's the first thing I'm removing low end on some of that. High passing, it sounds like it should be the other way around, but your high passing when you're removing low end is, really important to guitar tone, mixing, even like your sound man, he could sit there on the board and not touch nothing except high pass all the low end on instruments that are offending, and the mix will just come right into its own and actually sound pretty good just based on removing low end alone. Because we're all low end prostitutes. We like it, right? When you play your guitar tone, you want that rumble to hit you in the chest. If you can feel it, chances are you have too much. You shouldn't really feel too much speaker push. You can feel a little bit, listen, tone is all subjective. I'm just giving you my personal opinion on what works for me. I don't like a lot of low end in my guitar tone. I'd rather add it later than to totally be cutting things like crazy, because sometimes the low end can actually create distortion. And that's what you have to worry about this kind of stuff, especially in a flanger or a chorus situation, or in this, instance, a pitch detuner. Okay? So again, you can hear how that low end comes creeping in. Now, if you chug chords, you can hear how it almost gives you a woofing sound, especially like if you do A's and stuff. See, that sounds really bad to me, all right? Where you can actually clean that up a little. It's still a little gainy, and it's still a little out of control, but it's a huge difference, I think, from that to when I had nothing on it at all. Again, this is a tone that I'm still messing with. I didn't even tone match it with this guitar, so that's why it sounds like it's so loaded with gain, so don't hold the sound against me. I just wanted to show you because it was a good representation of the pitch block. Okay? So, that's some of the stuff that you can do, with the pitch. Now, let's move on to like a chorus block, and I'm going to use one of the new Larry Mitchell tones for that. All right, so we got the Larry Mitchell tone up here, which, man, these things sound really good for me, like right out of the box. I'm going to kill the delay. I'm going to kill the reverb, all right, because I want to just concentrate on the chorus here. I'm not even going to kick in any drive, all right. Now, let's try to kind of do what Larry did. I want to show you, a few cool things with my sound. I'm using a guitar that is Strat capable right now. Let's make that a little louder, too. Let's put this up to about, let's try like 4. That should be good enough. All right, so I'm in Strat mode right now, and it's a nice little chorus. It's subtle, but I think it really, adds a lot of cool stuff to this sound. It's even better if I go into like active pickup mode. Check this out. It gives it almost like that bell-like kind of chimey. That's without active. All right, so anyway, that's the kind of sound I'm getting. But what I wanted to explain to you is how you can get some pretty cool stuff out of the chorus as well, okay? Now, for you guys that aren't really, familiar with chorus, you kind of just go through the presets. I'm just going to leave this vintage tape where it is. And the two, in my opinion, actually the three most important are going to be, your delay time, depth, and rate, all right? And the reason being, they kind of all relate to each other in some way. All right, the depth is very important because without it, our rate means nothing, okay? The depth is how deep the swerve of the chorus, how it goes, that's what it basically does, all right? That is going to dictate how deep it goes. So if I strike something, I'll show you what happens when we alter that. Hear how it almost sounds like I'm out of tune, okay? That's how the depth affects the rate. Now that sounds pretty horrible. Now watch what happens when we decrease the depth on that. It almost sounds like a usable sound, right? So you can set that how you want. I usually like my depths. What's the default here? 50 is a little too much for me. But I would use a slower rate on my chorus. Now, see, in this situation, you could use maybe more depth and let it sweep a little lower. But you're getting a nice spread, okay? Now, the other thing is this delay time. When we up the delay time, we're actually getting almost like a built-in Haas effect. So I'm going to take a guess here that at 50 milliseconds, we're probably 50 milliseconds on the left. And I don't know quite what it's doing on the right. It might be at 0, maybe. But whatever it is, you now have a Haas effect, just like we used a delay. All right, and if we kill this, we kill the depth, of course, the rate no longer matters. All right, we're almost getting a slap back. So it's almost like a Haas effect. You can mess with the voices. I like it at 2, you put this at like 23, it actually sounds pretty good. You almost can still hear a little waver on there, But I mean, again, you've made a wider sound, using the chorus, and we're really not even chorusing much on this right now. It's not doing anything. I hear something going on. I can't put my finger on what it is, But I know if we add the depth, of course, it's going to start to sound more like a chorus. See. Okay, so that's some of the stuff you can do with this. And the same with this that we did with the detuner. Sometimes you want to adjust how much low end you want to allow to peek through. Hear how it's changing the sound drastically in the low end department? It's accentuating the low end the more we allow to come through. So you want to be careful with that and try to adjust it and make sure that it's not going crazy with you. and you can mess with all this other stuff too. But I just wanted to show you that you can do the same kinds of things with the other effects, but it's also important to EQ your effect, all right? The more you EQ your effect and make it sound cool, the more you can actually add, believe it or not. All right, like some guys say, I use a chorus or whatever. I can't use much of it because it sounds terrible. One of the reasons for that is if you EQ it properly, you can actually use more because it will then, help to accentuate what you have going on in a good way. So that's how I would do it, if I were you. And again, we're just using the vintage tape. You can use whatever you want and kind of, do these same techniques and methods, and you can get some cool results if you want to put the dimension on. And there's all kinds of cool ways. But, we were talking about different ways to do the Haas thing. And I just wanted to bring these things to your attention. Hopefully you guys find some of this helpful. And most of you probably know all this stuff already, so I wasted your time. If I did, my apologies. But for those that didn't, hopefully this, puts you in a better place with EQing your effects, doing the Haas effect or slight, enlargement to your sound. Maybe this will put you, in the right ballpark. Okay? Hope this helps. Any problems or questions, let me know. Thanks, guys. See ya.